I'm a 32-year-old man, just your average Joe, who's been married to my wife, whom I'll refer to as Jane, not her real name, a 30-year-old woman, for the past 2 years. Before tying the knot, we were in a relationship for 2 years. Things haven't been great between us recently. The trouble began a couple of months back when Jane approached me with the idea of having an open marriage to add some excitement to our lives. Her suggestion took me by surprise. It was beyond my imagination that she would ever bring up such a thing. Guys, I assure you I'm not trying to be possessive or overbearing, but knowing Jane for so long, it's difficult to digest that she's considering an open marriage. We must acknowledge that open marriages are fraught with risks and often result in at least one partner getting hurt, if not both. I made it crystal clear to her that an open marriage is absolutely off the table for me. It's not that I'm opposed to trying new things or adding some zest to our marriage, but I firmly believe that should happen within the confines of a monogamous relationship, without involving anyone else. She felt let down because it's not common for me to refuse her requests. I cherish her deeply and usually acquiesce to her wishes, even when it means making sacrifices on my part. Though she didn't voice her feelings after our talk, I could tell she was taking it hard, and I was determined to uncover the root cause of her proposal. I began to doubt my performance in the bedroom. I intended to have a discussion with her, but she remained closed off. Jane works as a consultant and has a demanding job that often requires her to adapt to different time zones, disrupting her work-life balance. My own job keeps me busy, but at least I don't have to deal with the added stress of time zone changes, so I have it a bit easier in that regard. Her hectic schedule made it challenging for me to share my concerns with her. I regretted my hasty rejection of her idea and realized I should have sought more information before making a decision. I felt terrible about it. Almost 2 weeks after our initial conversation, I came home from work early one day and cooked her favorite dinner. She was overjoyed by my gesture, and we embraced and enjoyed some meaningful time together. During this moment, I broached the subject of her open marriage proposal. She instantly became defensive and accused me of manipulating her into a psychological game. I had no intention of deceiving her. My goal was simply to have a pleasant evening and to understand her perspective on an open marriage. Her accusations infuriated me, and I bluntly inquired whether I was failing to meet her needs. She finally opened up, explaining that she works with a group of young interns fresh out of college who live a wild lifestyle, frequently partying and engaging in casual hookups. Their exciting stories had planted the idea of an open marriage in her mind, and she confessed to experiencing fear of missing out, FOMO, when hearing about their carefree escapades. I listened to her and acknowledged her viewpoint, recognizing that it's human nature to be attracted to the allure of new experiences. I expressed to her my discomfort with the idea of an open marriage, emphasizing how much I value our relationship and the unique connection we share. Before meeting Jane, I too was a young adult living life to the fullest, engaging in similar activities as those in their 20s. However, I also went through the emotional upheaval that comes with such a lifestyle, finding that the initial thrill eventually leads to a sense of emptiness. When I met Jane, she brought peace to my life, and after dating her, I had no desire to return to my old ways. I proposed to her, and we got married because I saw her as the one with whom I wanted to start a family and grow old. I shared my heartfelt feelings with her and explained my stance on open marriage. I also mentioned that if she was truly interested in exploring an open marriage, we could reconsider it. She immediately rejected the idea, seeming to understand my concerns and nodding throughout our conversation. I believed she agreed with my viewpoint, yet I was mistaken. She did not share my perspective. Everything seemed normal for the following days, but after about a week, I observed a drastic shift in her demeanor. She started to act distant towards me. When I inquired, she dismissed it, attributing her attitude to stress from work. In recent weeks, her behavior has become increasingly difficult. She's been making a fuss over the most trivial matters. She ridicules me by labeling me as old-fashioned. I questioned her about what she meant by that, and she replied that I stubbornly hold on to my beliefs and don't keep up with current trends. I'm puzzled by what she means by keeping up with trends, as I consider myself to have good taste in fashion and I stay updated with the latest music and TV shows. I asked her if she was upset because I was hesitant to consider an open marriage, to which she simply nodded and suggested that it might be the case. What kind of response was that? Her ambiguous answer left me perplexed. Lately, her work hours have become more demanding. Previously, she only had to stay late at the office a few days each month, but now she's returning home late more frequently. On some occasions, she doesn't get home until dawn. When I addressed this issue with her, she explained that she's striving for a promotion and needs to demonstrate her worthiness for the position. I've always admired her ambition. To be honest, I'm concerned about whether she's being truthful, but I'm trying not to entertain negative thoughts or jump to conclusions. An incident yesterday prompted me to write this post. Having read countless stories from this community, I felt compelled to share my own and seek your advice. Let me explain what happened yesterday. I got home at 7 p.m., which was earlier than usual, as I typically arrive around 8 p.m. I had been craving lasagna for some time, so I decided to make it for dinner, knowing it's also Jane's favorite. After an hour and a half of preparation, I finished the lasagna just how Jane likes it, garnished it, and set it aside to surprise her. By then, it was 10 p.m., so I texted Jane to find out when she'd be home, and she replied that she would be late, possibly after midnight. Feeling disheartened, my excitement waned. I distracted myself with video games for the next hour, despite being hungry, because I wanted to wait and eat with Jane. An impulse struck me to go and pick Jane up from her office, something I hadn't done before unless we had plans afterward. Believing it to be a great way to pass the time and pleasantly surprise her, I drove to her office. Her office was easy to spot, being a standalone building, so I waited outside for 30 to 45 minutes, watching as the shops closed and the streets emptied. By 12:30 a.m., there was still no sign of Jane, who wasn't replying to my texts, and I refrained from calling to avoid disturbing her. For a moment, I feared she might have left while I was en route, so I went up to her office and spoke with the receptionist, who informed me that Jane had left. Frustrated with myself for deciding to come here, I was convinced she must have departed while I was on my way. I returned home only to find that Jane wasn't there either, which sent a shiver of fear through me. She was still not online and hadn't seen my last message. Panic set in as I dreaded the possibility of infidelity, though my primary concern was for her safety. It was too late to reach out to any of her colleagues, and since she had only been at the company for 6 months, I didn't have their contacts. Unsure of what to do, I eventually fell asleep on the sofa, exhausted and anxious. At the break of dawn, I impulsively checked our room and found Jane sleeping soundly in bed, so I joined her and tucked in. When I awoke in the morning, she was already prepared to depart for work. I had inquired about her return time the previous night. She informed me it was 3 a.m. The day at work had been chaotic. I was delayed due to a meeting with a client from Asia. I questioned her about the time she left work. She casually replied, around 2:30. Her response left me astonished. Her answer sent a shiver down my spine. Either the receptionist misled me by saying Jane wasn't at the office at 12:30 a.m., or Jane was fibbing about staying until 2:30 a.m. Still reeling from the previous night's troubles, I chose not to pursue the matter further. She rang me this afternoon to ask if I had been to her office the night before. The receptionist had told her I was there at midnight looking for her. I'm curious about the receptionist's working hours. Nonetheless, I disclosed the truth and my reasons for visiting her office. She was quiet for a bit, then explained that she had left her office in the afternoon for a meeting at her client's location in another part of the city, which is why she wasn't at her own office. Her explanation puzzled me. She clarified that her client was an Asian company with a US office too, and that she had been at this US office in a different part of the city, on Zoom calls with staff in the Asian time zone. I'm still uncertain about how to proceed. Part of me wants to trust her, as it's not uncommon for companies to have US offices and employees working across different time zones, but my circumstances are unique. I feel lost and unsure of what steps to take next. Should I let this go, or should I address my concerns with Jane once more? I've confronted her several times before, as mentioned earlier. I welcome any advice or suggestions. Thank you. Hello. I can see you're in a tough spot. Your partner has left you in limbo on the brink of a potential crisis. I sense there might be an affair. But you're right to not rush to conclusions and to give her time to correct her path if she's strayed. I recommend having a serious talk with her about how her careless actions are affecting your mental well-being. Express your desire to resolve any issues in your relationship. Update. Thank you to everyone for your valuable input. I took some of your advice to heart and looked further into the situation. It's been a fortnight since my last update, and I've come across some startling information. Please forgive me if I vent a little here. I tried various methods to access her emails or phone password, but she was very secretive. I racked my brain for ideas to uncover the truth but came up short. The past 2 weeks have been more of the same, with Jane returning late from work and both of us giving each other the silent treatment, save for the occasional necessary conversation. A couple of days ago, she was on the phone with her mother, who has been battling kidney issues for some time and whose recent blood tests were concerning. I was on my computer while she lay on the bed talking to her mom. Out of concern, I took her phone to see how her mom was doing. As her mother described her exhausting routine of tests and medications, an idea struck me. I noticed the phone was unlocked with chat notifications visible. I got up and walked into another room while still talking to my mother-in-law. I casually entered the bathroom, locked myself in, put the phone on speaker, and pretended to listen while I read the messages through the notifications. The alert indicated that Jane had planned to meet someone for an enjoyable outing that day. Upon checking her social media direct messages, it was clear that your suspicions were correct. She was indeed involved in an affair. She had been intimate with her inexperienced colleagues. Shortly after, she noticed that I had taken her phone into the bathroom with me. She began pounding on the door, demanding her phone back. Lacking the time to read through every message in detail, I quickly browsed her photo gallery for solid evidence. The gallery contained numerous explicit images of my wife in compromising situations with her colleagues. I sent all those photos to myself via email and erased the history. She has been unfaithful to me with several co-workers. The betrayal made me feel so ill that I was on the verge of vomiting. All the while, my wife continued to knock on the door, pleading for her phone. I couldn't stand the sound of her persistent voice. I opened the door, handed her the phone without a word, and then locked myself in the bathroom again. Although I wanted to burst out and confront her immediately, I managed to calm myself and let the anger subside. The chat notifications included the specifics of where and when they were meeting that day. Exiting the bathroom, I grabbed the car keys and drove to the specified location. As I left the house, she called out to me weakly, but I didn't look back. I chose the most secluded table in the hotel lobby, not intending to make a scene, but simply to observe how at ease she was while going to betray me. She was expected to arrive at 5 p.m., but I was there by 3 p.m., and by 5 p.m., I had consumed numerous shots. I regretted not confronting her at home, but at the time, I couldn't fathom why. Perhaps I was too desensitized and unprepared for a direct confrontation. Even in the lobby, I wasn't ready to face her. It was 6 p.m., and she hadn't shown up. I suspected she might have sensed my presence and changed the meeting place. By then, I was too inebriated and exhausted to think clearly. I stayed put, continuing to drink. Around 7 p.m., I caught sight of a Jane, and my world collapsed. My vision was already hazy from 4 hours of drinking, which can cause more than just blurred sight. Eventually, I recalled what happened next. I was functioning on autopilot as I stood up and staggered to the reception where she was checking in. I tapped her on the shoulder and wished her luck with her fun ride, possibly uttering more than that, but this is a condensed account of my outburst. She grabbed my hand, insisting she could explain, but I don't recall her exact words. All I remember is shaking off her grip and hastily exiting the hotel. I caught a taxi to my friend's house and collapsed at his doorstep. The following thing I knew, I woke up on my friend's sofa the next afternoon, having slept for 16 hours. It was Sunday afternoon, and my friend Lee had prepared lunch and fresh lemonade for me. I shared the whole miserable tale with him, and he advised me to immediately lock all joint bank accounts, change the passwords, and get tested for STDs as soon as possible. For someone who had been so deeply hurt, financial matters and privacy were the least of my worries. I reached for my phone, which had run out of battery, plugged it in, and turned it on. As soon as the screen lit up, it was inundated with over 100 missed calls, more than 50 voicemails, and an overwhelming number of desperate messages. I disregarded all of them. Within minutes of powering on the phone, she began calling and messaging me again. I blocked her on every platform. I was so repulsed that I didn't fully read her messages or emails. Today is Monday, and I've informed my workplace that I'll be out sick for the next few days. I'm at a loss for how to cope with this situation. I've been consuming a lot of alcohol and feel the urge to escape everything. I'm at a loss for what to do next. As I'm typing this message, my friend is searching online for some top-notch attorneys nearby. I promise to keep everyone updated on the situation. Hey, don't throw your life away. Don't blame yourself for the errors your wife made. Your friend has a point. You should immediately lock your bank accounts and undergo all necessary tests to protect your health. Your wife has been associating with individuals who frequently engage in casual sexual encounters. You can never be too sure about what might be transmitted to you. It's always wiser to err on the side of caution, right? Look after yourself. And buddy, it's time to snap out of it and regain control over your life. If you don't act now, she has the potential to destroy you. It seems she's fallen in with a bad crowd. Message me directly if you need assistance. I'm acquainted with some reputable law firms that handle these kinds of cases. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update. I'm grateful for all the private messages and support on my previous posts. After considering the advice in the comments from my last update, I took control of my life and immediately froze all our joint accounts, updated all my passwords for sensitive information, and underwent STD screening. Thankfully, the test results were all clear. Lee assisted me in finding a lawyer, and I handed over all the photos I had taken from Kat's phone to him. I've been staying with Lee temporarily until the divorce is finalized. He was in need of a roommate, so it worked out well for both of us. Throughout this time, Kat has been attempting to reach out to me, pleading for us to reunite and make a fresh start. She even approached Lee, imploring him to mediate and mend our relationship. She claimed her love for me and insisted that the hookups were meaningless and merely a way for her to explore and feel wanted. I'm unsure if I'm out of touch with these modern notions of desirability among Generation Z, or if the whole idea is just nonsense. A few days after my previous update, I sent Lee to our house with the keys to collect my belongings, hoping Kat would be at work on a regular business day. However, Lee encountered her at home, where she broke down and sought his assistance. Wisely, he misled her by saying I was staying in a hotel, not at his place, knowing she might show up at his apartment and cause a commotion. She revealed to Lee that she had quit her job and admitted that her affairs began when a group of interns at her workplace started flirting with her, making her feel attractive and desired. They introduced her to various substances and involved her in their activities, some of which were illegal. What started as a one-off adventure turned into an addiction to the excitement for her. These interns, being low earners, exploited their senior, Kat, for financial support. Eventually, she recognized they were using her for money, but by then, she was too engrossed in that lifestyle. Lee questioned why she hadn't confessed everything to me earlier. She explained that her suggestion to open our marriage was out of guilt, but my refusal made her hesitant to reveal the truth. What nonsense! What was the point in suggesting an open marriage after being unfaithful? Kat is now stalling the divorce proceedings and shifting the blame onto me, claiming I encouraged her to have one-night stands for experience. Such a feeble excuse. Yet, she couldn't substantiate her baseless allegations. Currently, she's demanding alimony, citing mental distress caused by the divorce. If anyone deserves compensation, it's me, for enduring the agony of betrayal. Later, her sister Amy, not her real name, reached out to me, begging for us to reconcile. She described how Kat is suffering from severe depression due to the interns tarnishing her reputation at work. They've evidently shared images of Kat in a Delhi Janie situation, enjoying their company, with other high-ranking employees. They ridiculed Kat for being an easy target. She became the subject of office rumors. Consequently, she felt compelled to resign. The higher-ups have spread the juicy rumors beyond the office to their external contacts, making it tough for Kat to secure a recommendation from her professional circle. I reminded her that it was Kat who abandoned our stable marriage for some excitement. Now, she must handle the consequences that come with her choices. Meanwhile, I'm moving forward with my life. I've managed to control my drinking and have focused on exercising, eating well, and staying busy at work. The divorce proceedings are ongoing. The process was slowed down due to Kat's opposition, but my attorney has assured me that it will be concluded shortly. Best wishes for the next chapter. I hope you emerge from this ordeal even stronger. It's such narcissistic behavior to shift the blame onto you. It's absurd. You should distance yourself from this woman as soon as possible. Don't get caught up in any attempts at reconciliation.